A very good morning to you viewers and welcome to this episode of Living Legends brought to you by Meyer Vitabiotics and Science Integra. I am your host, Dr. Ameet Patki. A few weeks ago, we had a news article which analyzed why women-led countries did better in COVID times. New Zealand, Germany, Finland, Taiwan were some of the countries that were quoted for this analysis. And what they found was there were some common characteristics of these leaders: belief in oneself, multitasking, nurturing others, building and leading teams, not afraid to ask for help, and to question their work were some of the qualities that they found were common in all these leaders. Now take all this and add lots of poise, dignity, culture, empathy, and good listening power. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today has all this and more. It's dignity and culture personified. So join me in welcoming our guest for Living Legends, Dr. Usha Saraiya.
Hi Ameet,
Hello, Dr. Saraiya.
welcome. I'm so glad you have come here today.
How are you?
I'm fine, yeah. Come in, come in. I'm getting excited about starting this program.
Wow, what a view.
Thank you. Come and have a seat.
A very good morning to you, madam, and thank you for being on this episode of Living Legends and taking time off on your Sunday morning to share with us your life and times. A very good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much, Ameet, for including me. It's my pleasure to join this very innovative program that you have thought of, and I hope we can keep our listeners happy with our chat.
I want to start from the beginning. You were born in Lahore. You were the eldest of 4 siblings, all girls. We all have our share of childhood memories, but you had a very different childhood. Can you share with us how was your childhood days?
Yes, very happily. My childhood was exciting and interesting. My father was in the army, so we had the brunt of the Second World War, which started, I think, when I was just a year old. And we had to change houses and shift from one cantonment to the other for the next 8 or 10 years. My mother came from a very educated family in Nasik, and she was herself a graduate, an accomplished tennis and badminton player. And my father, he had done his BSc, then he applied for Indian Military Academy and was selected and then joined the army. So that was my background from my both the parents. And we lived in cantonment after cantonment. Schooling was a great problem. There were turbulent times, but it was exciting and we grew up being more mature maybe.
You said soon after the Second World War and after India gained its independence,
Your father left his military service because he was chosen by the then government of India to go as a military attaché to a very exotic country, China. Tell us something on your memories of the then China.
Yes, that also is something that happened suddenly. When we gained independence, India had to open embassies all over the world. And there were no suitable officers. There was no Indian Foreign Service yet. They were just about to start all these things. So what the government did was they asked for officers on deputation. And the first choice, of course, was ICS cadre. They were very well qualified. Then officers from Army, Navy, Air Force. There were also professors, learned professors from various universities. And all these people were selected, given a short period of training and given posts. And my father was posted as a military attaché to Nanking, China. And we all went by plane for the first time in our lives and landed up in Nanking, an exciting place.
Yes. Did you get an opportunity to meet Chiang Kai-shek or even see Chairman Mao?
No, not Chairman Mao, but Chiang Kai-shek, yes. He attended the condolence meeting for Mahatma Gandhi on 30th Jan 48 when we were there. And there was a lot of mourning in China when all this happened, and there was a very big condolence meeting. And the embassy put up a little museum, of his life and photographs and all that, which people were happy to see. So we were all standing there, and he came and greeted us. It was quite an excitement. He was called Generalissimo, meaning the Supreme Commander. And he had a fantastic personality with his uniform, and his stature was so great. I won't forget that easily.
Lovely, lovely memories. Your father then moved to Paris, another very romantic city. Your reminiscences of Paris?
Oh, Paris was a wonderful place. We were exposed to a totally different culture. We were for some time in an American school, then we were put in a French school and learned the French language. And my sister, of course, did a PhD eventually in French at the Sorbonne, but I didn't keep up my French. But Victor Hugo was my favorite author. I read Les Miserables then. And the exposure to art and culture and music was something very nice. That diplomatic life is a charmed life. And you meet world leaders, they are passing in and out of the city. Indian people were always welcomed at the embassy, and we had get-togethers. All in all, I feel you mature so much. United Nations had just formed, and a grand building was built across the Seine on the opposite side of the Eiffel Tower. It's a very beautiful place. I visited it again, and it gives you a different idea about life.
Yes. You did tell me that you read a lot of Rousseau, Voltaire, and I know from where you got your dignified poise and culture, because that was inculcated in you, I think, at a very, very young age. The 40s were turbulent time, globally because of the Second World War, and in India because of our independence struggle. But then you came back in 1952 to Mumbai. You did your then matriculation from St. Columba Girls' High School, spent a few years in Elphinstone, and then you had to make a choice to take up some career. You took up medicine, which is surprising to me because I thought being exposed to civil services, that would be an obvious choice for you. Why medical?
Yes, I guess I was different, and my three younger sisters have all done what you have said. They opted for the civil services and for the foreign service. But I had seen so much of violence, war, destruction, grieving families, that I just thought to myself that I must do something to promote life, to make people happy and healthy. And I wanted to do something which would fulfill that emotion in me, that I want to get away from violence. And maybe that's why I said medicine seems to be a good choice. And I didn't know many doctors. I certainly had no idea that it was a very hard or a difficult life. I had no such idea. But my friends were all wanting to do medicine also. So I said, okay, but I'm okay with that.
Wonderful. So you joined the Grant Medical College and you excelled in sports. You were playing table tennis, badminton, tennis, and also swimming. And you said once that you used to come home playing all these games so tired that you barely did any studies. And much to your surprise, you won the highest marks for amongst girls in the third MBBS. So that was something which I found very nice, because you were studying and you realized that study and play should go hand in hand.
Yes, sports came naturally to me because of my army background. We were all grown up playing all these games, and in GMC they couldn't find enough people to play intercollegiate, and we also had intermedical stretch from Ahmedabad right to Belgaum, because it was the Mumbai province, Bombay province. So I played as a form of recreation, but in my heart of hearts I wanted to be interested in the academics. And I certainly did spend time doing that. And I was quite surprised when I got the results. I didn't expect anything like that. I just thought I'll do well. That's enough for me. But those medals are an absolute treasure trove for me, because they were given to girls who came first, to encourage them to do medicine and do post-graduation. It was a Lady Ray Silver Medal. That is the name of the lady who was the wife of the governor. And she wanted to encourage Indian women to become doctors. In 1885, the first few girls entered the medical college. You can imagine that. And they were not very sure whether these girls will be able to perform, will be able to serve community. But things changed and it happened very well. And the girls did do well in the medical college. Yeah. So I took an interest in that, and from those days. And I read up and wrote a book on the early women doctors of India. And I published that book, which is appreciated by quite a few people as for historical value.
And how those seeds that you sowed
and the encouragement that girls got to take up medicine, now things are so different. We find that most medical colleges now have more girls than boys in medical courses.
Yes, but with every privilege comes a responsibility. Yes. I always tell the girls that you have an opportunity, but don't forget it's a responsible job and you have to do it for good.
Of course.
And they do it.
Yeah. Once you finished your graduation, you were very keen to get into postgraduate studies. Why OBGY?
To tell you the truth, OBGYN was not my first choice. My first choice was general surgery. And I had the marks and I was definitely going to get a seat. But the boys in my class, they came on a deputation and they talked to me and said, Usha, you will never work after marriage maybe. And certainly nobody will come to you for major surgery. You will be wasting the post, and one valuable post. And we all are just waiting to get this opportunity. So why don't you withdraw and do something else? So I was not sure that I wanted to listen to them. So I thought I'll ask my professor of surgery, because he was encouraging me all along to do well. So I talked to him and I was shocked when he said, Usha, the boys are correct. They're right. You will be wasting a seat because you may never become a practicing surgeon. And even if you do become a very good surgeon, no one will come to you for a major abdominal surgery. They will automatically have another choice. So you reconsider, and it's a good idea. And that seemed to be everybody's opinion. I'm glad things have changed now, but at that time I said, okay, I'll listen to all of you and I'll take OBGYN. At least it's surgical branch. But I'm very happy that today there are many lady surgeons, but I have no regrets. I've been very happy with the obstetric gynae. And if I had a choice to do it all over again, I would still do only obstetric gynae. I'm happy with the subject.
And I'm glad for once the boys give you correct advice, because we are so fortunate to have you in our specialty and learn so much from you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind of me.
No.
I don't know. There are so many people who have contributed perhaps much more.
But I think everybody adds on to the history of Ops and Gynae, and you definitely have done that. You said your residency days were divided between Wadia and Kama. You started your residency in Wadia, and you said you had a fantastic time. You had young mentors like Rohit Bhatt and Shirish Daftari, who were your registrars, and you were in awe of the Purandare brothers, the VN and VN Purandares. And you trained with Motasha. Tell me something of your life in then the Wadia Hospital.
Wadia was quite a challenge. First of all, those 5 days of continuous emergencies. I don't know how I survived it, or how anybody survived it, but we all survived it, and we all have happy memories. Yes, I have met Dr. K. Masani, who was the dean, and eventually I got to know him quite well. And the Purandare brothers were, of course, world famous, and when they took rounds, they were happy to have other people join also. Dr. Motasha was my first boss, and she was something like an icon. Such a charming lady, so competent, so confident. And when she came for a round, we all rallied round her. And the year was 1961, and she got a Ventouse instrument back from Sweden. And I was so excited when I had to assist her to do a Ventouse delivery with a lot of residents watching. It was the first time that it was used, and it has opened up a fantastic method for vaginal delivery. Now it is so commonplace, but for us at that time, it was a fantastic innovation.
Yes. I remember you telling me the joy that you had in assisting her for that Ventouse. You also talked fondly about your Wednesday seminars, your journal clubs.
Yes, that was also an innovation those days. And I must say that Rohit Bhatt and Shirish Daftari and A.C. Mehta, they were heroes for us. They used to do internal podalic versions, and we had to learn that. They handled the rupture uterus, a pulseless patient, and she was sitting up the next day in bed, and everything was done. And for a first term person, these seemed like miracles. And I said, am I going to do all this? Am I going to learn all this? Will I ever be able to be as good as them? And we did learn from them, and I'm eternally grateful, because that training gave me so much. Then these seminars were very good, that each postgraduate was given a chance. So when I went to Kama to do my registrar's post, that we were also included in PG, so I was told to do a Wednesday seminar. Oh, it was such a great responsibility. And I had written some work on postmenopausal endometrium, the histopathology. So I got everything together. I worked very hard, and I got a projector and those 35mm slides I made, and I was nervous. I said, this slide projector may conk, the light may fuse, and everything will be a fiasco. So the day of the program, I went there and I saw everything was done. And as the hall started getting full, I got more nervous. And then I saw Dr. Masani and Dr. Girard walk in. And that made me absolutely nervous. I said, these great people, what will they listen to me for these silly few cases that I have got? But everything went off quite well. Everyone appreciated, no accidents happened. And my cup of joy was overflowing when Masani himself called me and said, give me your paper. I want to publish it in our journal. And for me, that was almost like winning some big prize or something, I mean, to be asked to give your work for publication was great. And I'm telling you this story, Ameet, because I feel in all these seminars when young people present, we all as seniors must always go and appreciate their work. It would mean so much to them. And the publication part nowadays, has not been easy. But, publications become a very difficult thing. And somehow I feel we must make it somewhat easier or simpler, or so that they can all get a chance to publish their work. It will encourage them. And their thesis also, I think we should all, some time ago, there was a move that all these theses should be put together and made into some sort of publication so that they feel a little great.
Happy and encouraged.
We are all working so hard that we forget these niceties sometimes. That's we are busy most of the time.
Yes.
But today's generation is very good at it, and they get it very easily.
As a young postgraduate, I always admired not only for your scientific content in your lectures, but you brought a little style to the whole lecture. I remember watching you in one conference where you were giving the lecture and you played some background music. And in those days, you finished exactly as the background music finished. So you timed your lecture so well. I was amazed, I was mesmerized. But those are the days, and we picked up small things, not only science, but even the art of presenting yourself to the audience. You finished your MD and you had a very big dream of going to the UK to do your MRCOG and be part of the Royal College. But those dreams were shattered because at that point there was some ban on doctors going to the UK. The Reserve Bank had put in some restrictions for taking financial assistance and exchange. So although you were a bit disappointed, you decided to do a small stint in the ICMR as a research, and then you took up a full-time post at the Kama Hospital. At the same time, you married your husband, Bharat Saraya, a US returned businessman. He also happened to come from a family of doctors, which was led by the then legendary C.G. Saraya. So you got into the Saraya family, and then you tell me that life for the first 5 years was really, really difficult. Before you tell me about your life, let's take a break here, ladies and gentlemen. And after the break, we meet Dr. Usha Thakur as Usha Saraya. After the break.
You gotta come clean. You know what I mean?
I need to stay physically fit and mentally sharp. Wellman Vitamins drives my success.
Welcome back after the break. You are with me in conversation with Dr. Usha Saraya in this episode of Living Legends, brought to you by Meyer Vitabiotics and Science Integra. Welcome, madam, again. And we now meet you as the official Dr. Usha Saraya after you married into the Saraya family.
Yeah.
But with marriage, as you says, you get a responsibility. So you are now multitasking, not only as a wife, mother to 2 children, but a full-time job at the Kama Hospital. Tell me, how were you managing all these things and more?
Yes, those were difficult years. The first 5 years were very difficult. In fact, I had to set up house, bring up the children. And my work in Kama Hospital, I may have worked full time, but it was not full time. It was assistant honoraries post. And you know, we had very senior doctors as professors, and we were the assistants, and we had to do all the emergencies. And emergencies were very many, continuous emergencies, and people used to come from Uran by boat and come straight and walk into Kama Hospital. People with fistulas used to come from UP to VT station, and the reputation of Kama Hospital was such that they would just walk into our OPDs. But we enjoyed the work, you know, we had to have the stamina to do all the work, and I did a lot of work in Kama in those 5 years. But since I was interested in cytology and colposcopy, I was asked to start a cancer detection center for women. There wasn't something like that in South Bombay or in any of the other hospitals. And the government of Maharashtra gave me a lot of support. Dr. Virkar was the Surgeon General, and he said, let us do something positive about this subject. So I was very happy to do it. I had just undergone that training with ICMR. And then I also went 4 or 5 months to London, and I worked in Hammersmith Hospital and got a diploma from there. And then I fulfilled my criteria for becoming a member of the International Academy of Cytologists. I believe I was then only the 4th Indian to complete that assignment. So it kept me very busy, and I was very happy to set it up. And we realized that many doctors were interested in taking pap smears for their patients, but they didn't know how and didn't know where to send it and how to interpret it. And so we decided to do training programs. You know, Kama is a teaching hospital, and my registrars and my other assistant honoraries, I was quite interested, and I gave everyone a chance. Gave everyone one lecture on the course. I said, here are the slides, here is the material, you improve on it, you put in your own ideas, and let's do it. And the course is still running today after 45 years. It's one of the popular courses, you can say.
It's commendable.
Yes. And
it's commendable.
It is not easy to work with government. Officers keep changing, policies keep changing, funds are always a problem. But we did overcome all of them. And I was supported a lot by the Association of Medical Women in India, which was, you know, historically responsible for starting Kama Hospital. And anything that Dr. Girard said or Dr. Aptekar said, the government would always listen and say, yes, you deserve to have this facility. So it helped us, and they have always supported this sort of activity. And now all of them are doing courses and all of them are doing programs. It has got on now. And things have also changed in that subject, as you know. It was just a clinical subject at that time. And then when Zurhausen's research came into the 80s, that it is actually due to papilloma virus infection, then it became virological problem, immunological problem, then molecular diagnostics came in. And the ultimate was when in 2002 we got the vaccine. Then the whole story today is very, very different from what it was in my days when I started it.
Yes, and Harald Zurhausen
was awarded the Nobel Prize for the discovery of the human papilloma virus in 2008. And you said you were so overjoyed because your training center not only trained Indian gynecologists, but you got gynecologists from the SAFOC countries, from the AOFOC countries, and your name and fame had spread internationally. You went for international meetings, you collaborated with international professors, and today I've got one of your collaborators, Giovanni Miniello from Bari, Italy, who now has become a family friend with yours, and he has some words to speak about your association with him. So can we have Professor Giovanni on the screen, please?
Dear friends, I'm so excited for this prestigious honor deservedly granted to my friend Usha Saraya, that I decided to read these few words, not to omit all that I keep in my heart and I want to share. Talking about Dr. Usha Saraya in a few minutes is very hard because it is like telling the recent history of the international gynecology in a very few time. The long story that links decades of friendship and collaborations begins back in 1992 in Krakow. Usha listened to my lecture on direct microscopy and she was fascinated by its numerous diagnostic potential. So she invited me in Mumbai to organize the first Indian workshop on direct microscopy in genitourinary infections at Sir Arkinson Norotundas Hospital. Like all the great personalities of science and medicine, Dr. Usha Saraya has always been ready to recognize scientific innovation and develop them for her beloved India. An old proverb says, when the wind of change blows, some build walls, others windmills. So in these 30 years of tireless work, research and teaching, Usha Saraya and me have traveled all over India and Sri Lanka too, in order to spread colposcopy associated with direct microscopy for the early diagnosis of cancer of the uterine cervix, in order to avoid the false negative results of pap smear that may reach 50%, to recognize genital infections that may yield false negative results at cultures, and for a reliable and immediate cytohormonal evaluation or profile in any age of the woman's life. From this fruitful collaboration, but above all, from an unlimited esteem and friendship that goes beyond time and distance between our continents, 2 atlases have been published in India, which encountered an international diffusion. The first one was this, written by me and Usha Saraya by CBS Publishers. The second atlas published in India was this by, I'm traveling for this work, by JP Brothers, and later it was translated in Saraya Miniello in Spanish too for America Latina. About my 2 atlases entitled Direct Microscopy in Gynecological Practice, later translated in Spanish for the America Latina, and Easy Colposcopy, translated into Chinese and Russian, I had the great honor of hosting the foreword of my dear friend Usha Saraya. My gratitude to Usha will be unlimited because all my international visibility is due only to her. Furthermore, I'm deeply grateful to Dr. Saraya because she proposed me for the honorary fellowship of the prestigious Indian College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. When I came to India for the first time in 1992, I was accompanied by my wife Farah, and she was fascinated by Usha hospitality. From that distant time, a deep friendship has never faded. In 2016, for the ICO Congress in Agra, I decided to bring with me my wife and my daughters Federica and Daria. My wife met Usha for the second time after 24 years. When Farah had to say goodbye to Usha, she burst into tears. I too cried at the thought that my wife was coming back to Italy with me. In Agra I met again with great pleasure Dr. Sarita Balerao, Usha's daughter. I knew her for the first time when she was just a child. and I found Sarita as a splendid woman and excellent gynecologist. I'm sure that following her family tradition, she too will receive all the most prestigious awards she deserves. To conclude, I want to renew my heartfelt and affectionate congratulations to Usha. You, my dear Indian friends, have named Dr. Usha Saraya as a legend of Foxy. But for me, Usha will remain forever the legend of my heart. Love from Italy. Thank you.
That was very touching, and that was Professor Giovanni Miniello, Professor of Colposcopy and Urogyne Microscopy from Bari, Italy. At the same time, Dr. Usha Saraya was climbing up the ladders in the then BOGS, the Bombay Obstetrics and Gynec Society, and in 1997, she was the president of BOGS. Some of your accomplishments as president of BOGS, madam.
Well, I don't know about accomplishments, but those years you were with us and you helped me a lot in my year because we had planned many programs. One of the main things was we had a little problem about accommodation of the Bombay Obstetric Gynec Society, and we were desperately in need of a place. And since I had my connections in Kama, myself and some other group of friends, there were many people who helped us. We approached the government and said, please give us space and we will conduct academic activities here, and we will bring honor to this society, to this hospital. And as I told you, Kama is a very historic place, and they have a very special regard for anything that the doctors want to do, and they gave us the place. And for many years we were on the 6th floor of Kama Hospital, and luckily for me it was very convenient because I was there all the time and I could spend more time there. So that is one thing. And then the meetings we used to have, the annual meetings. One day C.V. Purandare was, I think, the president or something, and he said, let's do something different. And I said, let us print a souvenir. So he said, what does souvenir mean? So I said, well, it's a French word, but it's something a person likes to carry back with him or her to remind him happy memories of that function. Oh, he liked that idea a lot, and he said, what do I have to do? I said, you have to write an editorial. Oh, he said, that's very difficult. So we made him do that, and we got a whole lot of people together, and many people wanted to contribute. They contributed poems, they contributed stories, they contributed jokes, and we brought out the souvenir, which was really appreciated. And after that, I think 2-3 years I did it, and then we've had many other very good editors, and they have brought that magazine up very well. Of course, now it is maybe online something, or something which is again virtual, and we don't print so much now. But the few copies that we have, they became like archives, because there's a lot of information and history and changing trends there. I think that was one of my contributions at that time, and I have very happy memories of the box. And the last year, that is last was the end of the year, we had to change the name of our society. It was quite difficult because somebody said it's very difficult and we can't do it, and others said no, whether difficult or not, you have to do it. Then they said some organizations haven't changed, so why do we have to change? So to every one such organization, people mentioned 2 organizations which were not changing and some were changing. So I was the president and I had to take a decision. So I said, see, we must not worry about who has changed and who has not changed. And we mustn't worry whether it's difficult or not. If it's a job to be done, we'll do it. So I said, what I want to know is how many members want to change and does the majority want to change. So we did that, and it was decided that name has to be changed. So we said yes, and we formed a committee about how to go about it. We got some lawyers to guide us, and we did it. So I'm the last president of Bombay Obstetric Gynec Society, and Murti, who was my successor, became the first president of MOBS. So that is one more historic thing I remember of my year.
You will be always remembered for giving a new home to the Mumbai Obstetric Society in Kama Hospital. And it's such a coincidence that 15 years down the line, I had the honor of moving MOG's office from Sat Rasta to the present place at Kamla Nehru. So I know what stress it is to move an office and organization and continue doing the work and activities at the same time. You then took up the Foxy Committee Chair for the International Academic Exchange Committee, and I distinctly remember you had organized fabulous trips to exotic places like Russia, China, South Africa, and Sri Lanka. But there is one trip of Russia which I'm sure most of people who went for that trip will never ever forget in their lives. Can you share that trip to Russia?
Yeah, yes. The year was 1991, and Shirish Sheth was the president, and he was an international figure, and I was the secretary, and he had a lot of international guests coming at that time. And India had just opened up. If you remember, the economy had just opened up. And they started giving foreign exchange to go abroad and to have scientific things. But it had to be scientific, not for tourism. So we said we'll have a goodwill tour to Russia. And we organized it. It was difficult, but we did it. And the tour went off very well. We went to Leningrad, we went to Ukraine, we did everything. And we were in Tashkent taking a flight to Moscow on our way back home. So there seemed to be some little delay in our flight, and we were not bothered. And then when we came to Moscow airport, something seemed to be wrong because people were very grim. They wouldn't talk to us. There was no announcement. The travel agent who was supposed to receive us was nowhere to be seen. And we said, what is happening here? And Shirish was quite upset. So he barged into the manager's office and he says, what's happened to all of you? You're not talking to us. You're not telling us. And then we were told, and Shirish came out with an ashen face, with a quivering voice. And he said, you know what? There is a coup, and Mikhail Gorbachev has been toppled last night while we were in flight. And now I don't know what's going to happen to us because they are thinking of closing the airport. Oh, we got so worried. We were really concerned now. Will we get home? So we said, let's try and make a communication home to tell them. They said, no communication. You cannot communicate with anybody. Nothing is possible. Then we found the travel agent. He came running and he said, no, don't worry. We will take you to the hotel and we'll see what can happen. This is unfortunate what has happened, but we'll find a way out. So we went. And when we went out, there were tanks all over. There were police marching all over. But the atmosphere wasn't tense. People were waving, showing flags. The soldiers was also waving back at the people. Children were trying to climb onto the tanks. And we said, this is very funny. It doesn't seem to be like something to worry about. And we spent an anxious day. The next day we were told, yes, your flight will be taking off and you can come to the airport. And our flight was the last flight they allowed from Moscow airport for some time. So we were very fortunate to be back and, not get caught up there. But it was too unforgettable, that particular moment when all this happened.
So, ladies and gentlemen, after the spine-chilling narration of the Russian trip, let's take a break. And when we come back after the break, we will meet Dr. Usha Saraya when she's the Foxy president. After the break.
Well Man and Well Woman, the UK's #1 vitamins for men and women. Live life well. From Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company.
Welcome back from the break. I'm in conversation with Dr. Usha Saraya in this episode of Living Legends, brought to you by Meyer Vitabiotics and Science Integra. Madam, you were installed as the president of Foxy in 2002. Tell me some highlights of those years.
You know, the year comes and the year goes so fast, and you have to be very well planned beforehand because there's no time to do planning at that time. So I was very well planned, and I was organized in, yet so many things did happen, you know, during that time. First of all, I'd given as my theme, those days we used to give a theme earlier, so people knew what they wanted to do. And that theme was new frontiers, reaching new frontiers, because you know, the turn of the century, so many concepts changed, so many different ways of doing the same thing occurred. So we said, let's review all these things. And the special emphasis was, of course, on cervical cancer, because the vaccines had just been introduced. And our perennial problem of anemia in women, you know, we said we have to do something new, and we said let us start with the adolescent girl before she becomes, pregnant and starts having anemia. We must do, and there were many people who were working on this. And I must say that my work on anemia was not my work; it was the work of all the societies, and they really worked very hard. I had a very good team. That also helps a lot, you know, to have this. And then we wanted to publish a textbook, which we did. The previous president and the next president, something like that. We had three working together, and we made a textbooks. You know, the textbooks from India now have totally replaced foreign textbooks. But in the earlier years, we used to only read foreign textbooks. And as you know, many Indians have now become authors and given us the textbooks. Of course, I was operating from Kama. That is also what was to my advantage, you can say, because I was there in any case. And I think I'd like to combine Foxy ICOG activities together, because, you know, a lot of things were done. And we had a MOU signed with government of central government to train the government doctors to do MTPs and offer not just MTP but safe abortion services. Later on, it became a very big issue, and it has been one of the most important functions of ICOG and Foxy. And we also had the EMOC program being introduced by JAPAGO. And all that, we did the pioneering work. Afterwards, the subsequent presidents also carried it on very well. And ICOG was a very important factor, because we also had to make some guidelines for practice. You know, at one of the conferences, people said there's just no uniformity. What somebody does in South India and someone does in North India. And we said, well, situations are different, so how can you ever say that everyone should do the same thing? Then we said, okay, don't call it guidelines, that doesn't sound good. So we said we'll make it called clinical guidelines for clinical practice, or best treatment clinical facilities, or something different. But let us have a basic sort of baseline
structure. Yes.
ICOG has made guidelines for everything. All the protocols, we call it now. The terminology keeps changing, but the purpose is the same. That are we doing the right thing for the right patient? My went off very fast. Again, I had taken some international organizations, because AOFOG wanted to have a conference in India. So the first AOFOG conference was held here in Bangalore, and a very big contingent had come from all over, and I was asked to give the Chintensu oration there,
Yes.
and that was published in their journal. So it was a good year for me. Thank you.
Yes. I also remember you had gone to Lahore on one of your trips, and you were accompanied then by Dr. Suchitra Pandit, who was your joint secretary at the Foxy. And Suchitra tells me that when you went to your ancestral house in Lahore, you had a joy of a child. And she said there was so much of glint in the eyes that when she saw the house, although the building had changed, but she even recognized the tree where she had put her childhood sewing on that tree. And she said we spent time with those people who are now the occupants in the house, and they were so hospitable and so nice to you all. I have Dr. Suchitra Pandit, who has shared her experiences being your joint secretary. So can we have Dr. Suchitra Pandit? She is the past president of Foxy, past president of MOGS, but she credits Dr. Usha Saraya for igniting the fire in her to work for Foxy, because you took her as her joint secretary in your presidential year. So Dr. Suchitra Pandit for us, please.
Hello ma'am, it's such a pleasure to be here on this program, and thanks to Ameet for making me a part of it. Way back in 97, when I got elected to the Executive Council of Bombay Society, you were already president. Then Bombay had changed to Mumbai, and you were quick to institute that change from Bogs to Mogs. So you were the first president of Mogs. And incidentally, me and Ameet compared for your inaugural program, and I realized what a meticulous woman you are and how well you conducted the program. I loved the way you spoke, the melodious voice with the perfect voice modulation, and I was very impressed with that. So in 2000, when you asked me to be your joint secretary, it was like a pleasant bolt from the blue, and yet I couldn't resist asking you, ma'am, how did you choose me? And your reply was very simple: because you have the interest, because you have the time, and because you have a future in Foxy. That made such an impact on me, and I immediately agreed. And ma'am, we set forth working with you and the rest of your team members. You were very careful about your roadmap. You had it perfectly planned. The allocation of duties was done, and I never once saw you reprimand anybody for not having completed the job in time. You would say, okay, do it later. We started off your year with the installation at Odisha, and I remember you had a little fall because of the slushy mud and the carpet rolled in, and yet the next day you were ready to go and meet the pharma stalls, because you said, we owe it to them, Suchitra, we must do that. Such was your concern for your fellow colleagues. And again, ma'am, I remember we tried to include number of subjects for your theme, Reaching New Frontiers. Prevention of anemia was one of them. We had so many slogans and anemia walks and CMEs, and despite not having WhatsApp and mobile phones, we were able to reach the masses, and that was indeed an important step, because you sowed the seeds of anemia prevention, and today now everybody is working aggressively towards that campaign. Another subject which you're very passionate about is prevention of cervical cancer. And this is reflected in the innumerable workshops you've done and the number of doctors that you've trained. At that time, this was a relatively less known subject, and for Foxy, it opened up the realms, and people now are understanding that subject and working steadfastly towards prevention of cervical cancer. Your oration which was awarded to you, the Chenchen's oration, very prestigious. You spoke about prevention of cervical cancer and unfinished agenda. Was so important. It had such an impact on people. The year went off very smoothly and we were able to achieve a lot. And ma'am, I still remember you had given me a Banarasi sari and I'm wearing that right now. I always cherish it. In my year as President Mumbai Society, I had instituted an award, Women's Empowerment Award, in my parents' name. And when we decided about who should be the first one, the first name that came up to my mind was you. And that time me and my mother had given you this award. And again, when I got elected as president of Foxy, you sent me a handwritten card saying, I knew you'd do it. Such was your concern for all your juniors. And ma'am, I think your mentoring for me had begun when I was a joint secretary, and that really helped me in my roles in Foxy. I'd like to say at this juncture that you played an exemplary role. Be it a homemaker, be it a mother, be it a clinician, be it a leader of so many organizations, Foxy, ICOG, Mumbai Society, Association of Women in India, you were excellent. Because you had not only the passion, but the determination and automatically the time that comes in to make what you are. And that's what I always say, you're a perfect role model, not just for me, but for many, many other Foxians. Thank you, ma'am, so much for having opened up the floodgates of Foxy. And I'd like to say, I wish you a long and healthy life. And I'm sure we have many, many years of association together. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Dr. Suchitra Pandit giving a very touching and emotional tribute to her mentor who inducted her into Foxy. I also remember that you strived very hard to have a combined MICOG and MRCOG exams. You and a group of doctors from India collaborated with the Royal College, and you put in a lot of efforts, and the then President of RCOG, Tony Falconer, recognized your efforts, and we did have the joint exam, and you were awarded the honorary causa, honorary FRCOG. So a dream which we thought was shattered many years back, in a way was fulfilled when you were inducted into the Royal College with the honorary FRCOG. You, because of your cytology and cancer detection programs, you had frequent visits to the WHO and the UN. You told me that you were part of the UN assemblies and the WHO delegations. Tell me something about those trips that you did to the UN and WHO.
Yes, certainly, Ameet, I'll tell you. And this ICOG, what I did was substantially because of the whole group of people. Yes. And Dr. C.N. Purandare took the lead afterwards. And initially, we started this whole thing, but it took a long time to actually materialize. And they were very good people, and the RCOG teams which came, they appreciated so many things about India. And I feel very proud because when I'm a founder member of ICOG and when we formed ICOG, many people were skeptical whether it will ever take off, whether they said, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to duplicate RCOG? And we said, we are not duplicating anybody. We'll have our own ideas and our own things, and we are meant for the Indian population. So the concepts were there, and many people have helped ICOG to become what it is today, and I'm very proud of it. And one day when I really felt proud was at our convocation. The president of RCOG and the vice president of ICOG were on the stage wearing Indian clothes and appreciating the work that ICOG was doing. And of course, the famous India Day when you were all there, when they again wore Indian clothes and were dancing away to Indian music. I thought that, we had in a social way achieved something by just being around and not always sending our students to England to study. The reverse flow also was there.
Yes. And about your UN and WHO meetings?
I belong to an organization called Medical Women's International Association, which is now 100 years old. And for years I've been on their executive and working for them. And they are an official accredited NGO for women's health to United Nations. And they are in official partnership with WHO for women's health. So their whole focus is on women's health and women's health globally, not exactly in one place. So every year they have a conference in New York in the United Nations, the same great building that there is. It is called CSW, Status of Women, health. And the health part we handle. So because of that, I had an opportunity to speak twice at the assembly. Once it was about, of course, what India is doing for control of cervical cancer, which is still an issue now. And the second was about violence against women. That was after that Delhi rape case. What government of India was doing and what socially some people were doing. So as an NGO, what
awareness.
Yes. So that was good. At WHO Assembly, we go and attend. It's just an experience to attend. And in 2018, when we had that discussion about women's health and cervical cancer control, it was our proud moment because, they wanted to announce elimination of cervical cancer as a global policy. And C.N. Purandare was there and Nirja Batla was there. And in May, we had all this discussion, and in November, the whole project was announced that we are now in that phase of elimination of cervical.
Goal for elimination. Wonderful. Yeah. Today, I have Dr. Bhagyalakshmi Nayak, a colleague of you, trained with you, and who's presently the Foxy Oncology Committee chairperson.
Before that, we take a break, and after the break, we will have Dr. Bhagyalakshmi Nayak from Cuttack talking to us on Dr. Usha Saraya. Don't go anywhere. Join us after the break. Welcome back after the break. We are on our last segment on the last episode of this series of the Living Legends. We are chatting with our guest today, Dr. Usha Saraya, and we will now listen to what Dr. Bhagyalakshmi Nayak has to say. So can we have the video for Dr. Bhagyalakshmi Nayak, please?
It's a delight to speak about Dr. Usha Saraya, madam, and I'm really fortunate for having this opportunity to be associated with a legendary like her. My first personal meeting with her way back in 1998 when she had come to Orissa for oration, and that year being the Vardhaim centenary year, she had given a beautiful oration on Vardhaim, his history, his life history, which left the audience really enthralled. And about telling about her colposcopy skills, I think there's no one would match to her skills. And about her center in Kama Albles Hospital is one of the oldest Foxy affiliated colposcopy centers, and more recently it has become a IFCPC affiliated training centers. But the ethos about that colposcopy center is something to be felt. I think it cannot be described. So anyone who is practicing colposcopy, I wish and I feel that everyone should visit that colposcopy. I always tell for those who have not visited this center that it is a temple of colposcopy, and Madam reigns there as the graceful goddess of colposcopy. I think everyone should visit, anyone doing colposcopy should visit this center, and it's worth. And many students have graduated from this center, but the best thing is that all of them keep coming back. And one of them, Dr. Radhika Joshi, who is one of the oldest colposcopists in India, she practices in Kolhapur. She is also Madam student, and I was really surprised that she also used to come back to her during all the workshops, whatever Madam conducted. And I think Madam is really an epitome of humility, intelligence and hard work, all amalgamated together to make us see what she has. And the most important thing about her, that each of his lectures has some freshness, some novelty, and so each time you hear her, you'll really see there's something new in it, so you'll never get bored with her lectures. And she has I have heard her speak in last December in our ICOG conference, where she had so many new things to tell the audience about cervical cancer, HPV, and she keeps on readings, and I'm really surprised about her energy levels and how humble she is, I think. And the best thing is that she has two things to her qualities, that's she dresses very well, and at the same time she addresses very well. So these are the two things which has kept her going. Kudos to you, Madam. We still look up to you as an inspiration. The womankind looks up to you as an inspiration. All the gynecologists do, and I wish you more and more years which are very productive, and you still give back to womankind all that you have gained and learned. And the only one very important thing that I have got from Madam was in last December, when I was trying to organize a screening program in a far unreached area in Arunachal Pradesh. Little did I know that she was able to understand that I was hunting for doctors, and I was really having a very tough time. And then she gave a call to Dr. Gokul Das. So, and I don't know how she was came like it was a miracle, and her one phone call to Dr. Gokul Das, and I could organize the whole camp. And his one he was able to communicate with me, and we would screen so many women in a far-reached area. So Madam, I'll be ever grateful to you for all that you have done for me and been for me, and so, still being an epitome of beauty and intelligence. And so thank you, Madam. Praying God to give you more and more productive life. Thank you very much, and Dr. Ameet, for giving me this opportunity. I am still a learner, and Madam still will be a teacher for all of us for years to come. Thank you so much.
We are in this pandemic times, the COVID times, as it will go down in history. What does Usha Saraya miss in this COVID times?
Well, at a personal level, I suddenly miss my clinic and my practice. Overnight, we had to close the clinic, and I had to tell my patients, because of my age and my comorbidities, I'm sorry I cannot attend to you, but I can do it on telephone and I can do teleconsultations, that's all. That's just my personal thing. But secondly, I'm really worried for all my doctor colleagues. You know, all the young people who are working selflessly and taking a lot of risk also, but they have no choice, they have to do it. So when you hear of the loss of the medical personnel, not only in India but even abroad, it makes you feel that it's really a very unfair thing. Then I'm also concerned about the protocols. The protocols seem to be changing all the time. We don't know. And of course, it is a new disease. It is something no one has dealt with. So how can you have any standardized treatment? So with this changing protocols, we don't know how to do deliveries of these COVID positive patients and how to look after. But we are learning. And I can say that I'm happy that I'm at least alive and to be aware. How many people have seen a pandemic in their lives? Never. It's very rare. So something very unusual has happened. And as they always say, you know, in Chinese language, there are two strokes for crisis. One is the problem and the second is an opportunity. So every crisis gives you an opportunity to do something new. So treat it as an opportunity. And I think we have all become very good at Zoom and very good at virtual meetings. We have started a new way of communication and maybe something good will come out of all this.
And I think this living legends is a proof of what you're saying. That here I'm talking to you miles away and having a chat with you.
And
you also
said hasn't kept us away.
Yes. And you told me when I first invited you that, you know, in this COVID times, I have my 2 grandchildren, but I'm missing my 2 other grandchildren because I haven't seen them for 2 months. So I'm sure this time will also pass and we'll soon be all reunited as a big family. I'd once visited your consulting room for some work, and I'd noticed a photo of 4 young girls. And you said that this is me with my 3 other sibling sisters. And you said that this photo had deep meaning to you. It was a symbol of women empowerment. When I asked Sarita to say a few words on you, she said that I would rather talk of all the 4 sisters than only for my mom. So let's have Dr. Sarita Bhalerao, presently the first Vice President at MOGS. She is also been the Joint Secretary in FOXI to Dr. Reshma Pai when she was the President. And let's hear what Sarita has to say, not only for her mom, but all the 4 sisters. So Dr. Sarita Bhalerao for us, please.
Thank you, Ameet, for inviting me onto your show, and heartiest congratulations for such a fantastic show. One aspect of my mother's life that I would like to discuss is her family, her 3 sisters. My mother has 3 sisters. Dr. Anuradha Kunte was a professor of French at the JNU in Delhi and also interpreter for Mrs. Indira Gandhi. Dr. Aruna Bagchi is a retired IAS officer who has held many important portfolios. Dr. Sheila Bide is also a retired IAS officer from the Andhra Pradesh cadre. All the 4 sisters are doctors, though my mother is the only medical doctor. The other 3 are all PhDs in their respective fields. The 4 sisters have managed challenging careers, full family lives, and are also great travelers. They have been a tremendous source of support to each other through these years and a great source of inspiration for the next generation. Now also our extended family, we meet in person whenever possible, and recently we have been meeting on Zoom calls. So I really think that my mother is very, very lucky to have such a wonderful family. Thank you.
Madam, we have come almost to an end of our episode, and I wanted to give a message to all the young generation of doctors, from your experiences, how to reach where you all have reached in your life. So a message for our young doctors.
Thank you, Ameet. I don't know whether the young people want a message from us and they feel it's going to be the new normal now. It's a new world. I don't know what sort of a world they're going to live in. But there are certain values which are eternal. And I think we must always remind everyone of the eternal values. And the first and the most important thing I would like to say is whatever you are doing in this long journey, please enjoy it. Enjoy every moment of it, the success, the failures, everything. You can't just have it your way all the time. Secondly, along the way, please make friends. Please create goodwill. Don't have too many enemies around, and don't upset people by what you say. Give them encouragement, help them, guide them. And I feel that is very important. Don't all the time think that you are greater than their abilities. They have fantastic abilities, and a good leader always brings out the abilities of his people around you. And all along, in all this zest for professional success or professional life, our medical life is very, very demanding. It makes us give up a lot of other things. Don't neglect your own family. They are the most precious things. Patients will always find another doctor, but your family is not going to find a replacement for you. They will suffer because you are not there to give them attention. And don't neglect your health. Health is also compromised by our profession. We don't seem to realize how much damage it does to us. So I think it's something that everyone has to decide for himself or herself, how much time to spend with the family and how much time for your career. And it really doesn't matter at the end where you reach, as long as you've been a happy person and you have created a zone of happiness around you. I think that's about all I would like to say. I have great faith in the next generation. I am a total admirer of their technological skill. And I know my students, when I used to go for a round, I would say, what is this subject? What is this medicine? I must look it up. And they'll say, here, I'll tell you what it is. So I said, my God, you people are so talented and everything is so prompt and good. And I wish everyone a lot of good luck and happiness in their lives. Thank you so much, Ameet. You've been wonderful. You've been given me an opportunity to say things I haven't said for years.
Yeah. You have led a very rich and dignified life, and you have always walked the talk. You have never left any gaps in your professional or in your administrative skills for people to point any fingers. My viewers join me in wishing you a very happy, healthy life with your children and grandchildren. Thank you so much for spending a Sunday morning with us, and I'm sure you'll be reunited with your other two grandchildren soon, and you will get back to our old times. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, and thank you once again, Ameet.
This is our last episode in this current season of Living Legends. It was our small and humble effort to bring to you the life and times of some of our iconic stalwarts. I hope you derive all the pleasure and happiness that we derive in bringing this to you. On behalf of Meyer Vitabiotics, Science Integra and myself, I thank you for all the thousands of congratulatory messages, suggestions and comments that you have sent to us for our previous episodes. That only tells us how much involved you were in this Living Legends. We will come back to you soon, hopefully in better times, with our Season 2 of Living Legends. Till then, you take care, stay safe, stay healthy, and a big thumbs up to you all viewers for watching our Living Legends.